Are we guys? Do we do magic? Are we
We
the
are guys.
magic guys? Is that our intro, Nick? Are we live?
We are live. It didn't play the intro though.
No, I did it for us. We're guys. We do magic. We're the magic guys. Live on the internet. There's the intro.
Well, hello and welcome to the Magic Guys podcast, episode 211. I'm your host, magician Nick K, and joining me this week is the illustrious Doug Kahn. Say hi, Doug.
Bonsoir, mon amis. Or bonjour, I guess. If you're in Australia, it's daylight time still. It's evening in Las Vegas. How y'all doing?
Yeah, well, so yes, sunny Melbourne it's only 11 a.m. here, but you have now made the big move to Las Vegas. And how is that going, friend? I mean, it's been,
it's actually been great. Arriving in Las Vegas with the wife and the cats, the whole transition has gone well. Our furniture is late, so that's kind of weird, but we're getting by. I don't know. I don't think we've chatted since I drove here from New Orleans, but man, we went through a sandstorm in Arizona. I thought I was going to die, literally.
Whoa.
And
what's that like?
It's insane. They call them a haboob. It's 60-mile-an-hour winds, and this lasted for 90 minutes through the desert of Arizona. I'm white knuckling it with, you can see 20 feet in front of you. Tumbleweeds are bashing into the car and breaking. And these tumbleweeds are like not little, tumbleweeds are big.
Kidding me.
It was harrowing, I think is the word. Harrowing.
So you're in the SUV, you're holding a trailer.
So it was just that we're driving a Corolla Cross. It's like an SUV. Yeah. No trailer. We get our stuff's being delivered in a pod storage unit. That's how that's going down. But it was a full car. There's no room in the car. And man, literally, you can't see 20 feet in front of you.
Never wanted to be. The comment here says, I thought you said a seance storm. Could you imagine that? Just
such a ghosts are everywhere.
Just trying to catch a ride, and it was just like, you wouldn't believe it, man. The ghost of Christmas spirit was all like, hi. Hitchhiking. But guys, thank you for being here in the chat. Thomas Congo, Scotty P, Tim Askin. Thank you all for being here. We have a question from Scotty. He just wants affirmation. He wants to know, did the cats
made it? They're starting to adjust. Yesterday, our third piece of furniture we bought was a little cat bed. So they're all happy to have their own sofa now. They have technically more couch than we do at this point.
That's hilarious. It'd be like, oh, the cats have this palace to live in and you like sleep on the floor.
Yeah. I mean, it is their universe. I just live in it. So we accommodate them as best we can.
Yeah.
Do you have cats? Do you have any pets, Nick?
I don't have pets. I love the idea of having pets, but because I am an animal lover, I don't I feel it's unfair to have animals cooped up in a one-bedroom apartment when I work as much as I do, and especially I travel as much as I do. And it's purely because of that I would not like I can't tell you more than anything. I come home and I think to myself, like, I'd love it if I had a Labrador.
Yeah.
Like
you're right. The way you're like a super bachelor, heavy worker, travel a lot. That's not conducive. You might get by with like a gerbil.
Correct. Yeah. Or a snake. That would be ideal because even like this very weekend, I'm off to Brisbane where I'll be teaming up with the good guys at the Theatre of Magic. I'll be performing there. Yep. And there's also a magic convention called the Assembly. There is going to be an abundance of really awesome lecturers and so forth. Christian Grace, if you want to look it up, look up the Assembly or through Piper Magic, who's putting that together. So we'll be up there for that convention. I'll be flying up on Friday. I get to hang out with Nobito, which is great. He sends his love. He, just like you, Doug, for the listeners, he's currently moving house himself, and that's why he was unable to kind of make it today. But yes, Scotty P is also going to be there at the Assembly, one of our awesome listeners, and in the chat. And I'm looking forward to hanging out with him because that guy always blows my mind every time we hang out. So
no doubt,
it's going to be a great weekend. Yeah, and for that reason, I don't do pets. But,
curious, what's attendance at an event like this, or do you know? Is it a new thing, or will there be hundreds?
Okay, good question. So the last time we had the Assembly, that was in 2019, and we've not done one since.
I wonder why.
Yeah, that kind of happens. When we did do it, it was amazing. We had Jason Ladany and we had Dan Harlan.
Wow! So Piper's spending a few bucks to get some talent across the seas. That's cool.
It was amazing. It was actually really, really well done. I had the pleasure of emceeing. I was, like this workshop that Dan Harlan did was one of the best things that I'd ever seen. The guy's genius is like, you don't appreciate it until it's in front of you. Like, and he's unboxing brilliant ideas and putting it together for you. So that was really, really wonderful. So yeah, unfortunately, it's been many years, and we're doing one again. We were begging him to do it for a long time, and the lineup this year is going to be pretty great as well, with some awesome international acts. So by all means, scope it out. And those guys will also be performing at the Theater of Magic on the Saturday night, the night before. So I'm actually performing. Yeah. So for me, no pressure, but I have to follow Christian Grace.
Yeah. That's,
come on.
That's probably a good spot for you. I love Christian Grace, but I might think of him more of a creator, and a genius level thinker. But, when it's time to rock the house, you want a guy who's done 1,000 shows. I don't know what his professional life's like. Is he a pro performer? I don't know.
That's a good question, man.
I know you are. I'll take a pro performer in a closed spot over a great magician, theoretically any day of the week. And I love Christian Grace's material. But
the cool thing is that after this weekend, we can talk about it a whole bunch in next week's episode. So for those of you who are listening today, do not miss next week, because this week we are actually paying some respects to someone who had only passed away last year in December. I had wrote this report some while ago with the intention of paying our respects to the greats, as we do in all of our history podcasts. So I think without any further ado, we should begin the story of the amazing Kreskin. Are we ready to begin?
Let's do it. Do. That's the intro for the history.
Yeah, we need some beatboxing or something.
Man, no Norbedo, no beatboxes, no audio clips. We're struggling today.
Put your hat on backwards, perhaps, so we can just fill the gaps. Maybe
I've tried that look, the Samuel Jackson Kangol look.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't work too good for me.
No. Okay.
So, what about an eye patch? I can grab an eye patch from the back. I got some Groucho glasses, something like that.
That'd be kind of cool if you had an eye patch and then you did this, and then it became two, and that was your blindfold, and then you did a blindfold routine. That'd be cool.
Do that. Let me go in the warehouse. I'll be right back.
All right. While you're doing that, let me tell this story.
Let's learn about Kreskin instead.
Let's do it. George Joseph Kresge, formerly known as the Amazing Kreskin, was born January 12, 1935, in the bustling suburban town of Montclair, New Jersey. From an incredibly young age, Kreskin exhibited a deep fascination with the mysterious and the extraordinary. His journey into the world of magic and mentalism began when he was only 5 years old, inspired by the classic comic strip Mandrake the Magician. Mandrake was a fictional stage character in with hypnotic powers, with a knack for solving crime. It captured Kreskin's imagination and planted the seed for what would later become his lifelong pursuit. We don't actually have this in Oz, Mandrake.
Yeah, he's pretty prominent, kind of a vintage, really classic magic figure in the States. Maybe a little passe these days, but I could see how Kreskin would be inspired by this, certainly this image of a magician that solves crimes and stuff. And,
Yeah. So this was just like a short 3-panel strip in newspapers back in the day?
I think it might have been a full-fledged comic book. And man, did someone make a show of Mandrake? I'm not sure, but I think it was more of an actual page turner, but also maybe the strip too. We found a gray spot in my knowledge there.
Okay. Well, yeah, I tried looking it up, but I couldn't find the minor details with that time period. So,
right.
But what I did find out was this. By age 7, Kreskin had already begun performing for small magic tricks for his family, neighbors, and school friends. These weren't just simple card tricks. He was experimenting with such psychological aspects of performance, such as using subtle gestures and influencing what the audience had noticed. Even at a young age, Kreskin displayed an uncanny ability to engage and mesmerize people, a skill that would later be the hallmark of his career. As he grew older, his obsession with understanding how people think and behave deepened. He began studying psychology independently during his teenage years, devouring books on suggestion, hypnosis, and the mysteries of the mind. This self-taught foundation prepared him for his formal studies later on, where he combined his academic rigor with his innate curiosity. In high school, Kreskin became known as the kid with the magic tricks, frequently impressing his classmates with sleight of hand and the ability to seemingly read minds. Yet, even at this stage, he was less interested in the flashy aspects of magic and more drawn to the psychological underpinnings, how the human brain processes information and how it can be used to guide and focus and misdirect attention. So this passion led him to Seton Hall University, where he formally studied psychology in the late 1950s. At Seton Hall, Kreskin delved into subjects such as perception, memory, and the power of suggestion, all which would later become the building blocks for his mentalism performances. His academic work was driven by a single question: how far could human thought and behavior be understood and influenced with subtle cues? He treated his university years not as a means to learn, but as a laboratory where he could experiment with the principles that would later define his career. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
You know, like even during his time at the university, Kreskin continued to perform, honing his skills at small local events and private parties. What set him apart from other performers was his ability to integrate his academic learning into his acts, creating a performance style that was equal parts entertainment and psychological experiment. The guy's kind of the real deal when you think about it, don't you think?
Yeah, he kind of blurred the lines. He didn't really call himself like, I guess he did proclaim to have a little bit of mental powers, but maybe not be psychic per se. And he would often do also like magic tricks in his show where, it was just a trick, but he wouldn't call it a magic trick either. It was like a gray area but yeah. I wonder how much of this bio is like he was in college studying these things and then went on, or then he went to college to like pursue, like, how do you pursue memory work in the 50s?
That's a good point. I'll cover that because we leap into the 1960s and the 70s. So
we got some info on that. All right.
Yeah. So it's a great question. So his earlier life was a mixture of like the curiosity and everything that surrounded the magic. But by the time he graduated college, he was not just a magician, he was a mentalist who had already laid the groundwork for the career, which now in his later years would like astonish millions. After completing his studies at Seton Hall University, he transitioned from performing at small local events to becoming one of the most sought after mentalists in the world. His career took off in the 1960s and the 70s, an era where live performances and television appearances played a crucial role in building a performer's reputation. What made Kreskin stand out was his ability to combine the drama of stage magic with the psychological intrigue of mind reading, earning him the title The Amazing Kreskin. So his first major breakout on television was on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson.
I was going to guess that. It had to be Johnny Carson. Yep.
Johnny Carson did so much for magic. It might even be worth doing a history lesson on him. If you guys think that would be kind of cool, because when you see so many of these ones that we do in the past, whenever anyone does anything great in the States, especially, I don't know, I guess with the time period and my age and us being in Australia, I don't even know if it was broadcasted here in Oz, but if it is something you guys would like to figure out or learn, if Johnny Carson did play a role, I'll do the research. Just put it in the comments. Yes, tell us about Johnny Carson, and I'll look into it for you guys. Now,
man, I would love a history of all the magicians that he put on that show, and I also love to see a compilation of all those performances. And you can see many of them on YouTube, but to have it all under one umbrella, that would be
absolutely.
Because he really did, like you said, he did so much for magic. And, when I was a young man, this is what a rare opportunity to see some amazing artists, pre-internet, pre-DVD. Johnny would have, if he had a magician on, I was staying up late that night for sure.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, Carson was a former magician himself, which I learned while doing this research on Kreskin. So he was captivated by Kreskin as a whole. So like for a magician, it's that beautiful moment, like when talent knows talent, and then away you go. So Kreskin's performance on the show was nothing short of spectacular. He would ask members of the audience to think of specific objects, names, or places, and then accurately reveal their thoughts. These segments quickly became audience favorites, and Kreskin went on to appear on the show over 80 times.
What?
Yes.
On The Tonight Show?
Yeah.
80 times?
Yep. 80 times, and that's just a testament to his popularity.
What?
That is, right?
That should be a record, I would imagine.
It probably would be.
Man.
It probably would be. I should have actually done my diligence in that one.
He must have been a good fill-in for Johnny. Johnny's like, hey, John Wayne canceled. Can you get over here, Kreskin?
Yeah. Well, he became a regular guest on several shows when I did my research. So his charisma, along with his astonishing feats, made him a regular guest on other talk shows, including the Merv Griffin Show.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. There was Late Night with David Letterman.
Okay.
The Mike Douglas Show as well.
Yeah. All the old school.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, those are talk shows from like the 70s, right?
Yeah. So I guess that would be the equivalent of being like, he did Fallon, he did Kimmel.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
SNL,
some of those are like morning shows. Some of those are afternoon shows. He got around.
Yeah. So these appearances brought Kreskin into the millions of homes and helped solidify his reputation as a world-class performer. His ability to predict outcomes, find objects, and read minds fascinated audiences and sparked widespread discussion about whether his abilities were real or just cleverly executed illusion.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1970s, Kreskin's fame reached new heights when he starred in his own syndicate television series, The Amazing World of Kreskin. The show featured his signature mentalism routines, as well as live audience participation. One of the most thrilling parts of the show was Kreskin's ability to find his paycheck.
Yep.
I love this idea. I'll mention it a few times as we go along through the stories. So his paycheck, which was hidden by the audience before the performance began, right? If he failed to locate it, he forfeited his pay.
That's a hook.
Bro, it's a daring challenge, most definitely, right? And it added to the mystique of what he did. And I believe he almost always found it, is what it said. Like, that'd be pretty gnarly. Imagine like you putting out there, like being that caliber of magician, it would be like a $10,000 sort of fee. And you're just going like, I'm going to hide it. And if I can't find it, I'm broke. Like that is.
I find it surprising there would be times where he didn't find it. Like his method was fallible. That's like.
Well, this is the thing. This is the 1970s, my guy. Like, it's not as if he's got some sort of like beacon. Like, I mean,
now he doesn't have the earbud 3000,
right? Yeah. So, so the show not only entertained viewers but also gave Kreskin a platform to showcase his mentalism abilities. His act included everything from hypnosis and suggesting to large-scale predictions. Right? It cemented his place as one of the greatest psychological performers. Kreskin didn't just captivate audiences in the US, though. He became an international phenomenon. His live tours took him across other countries such as Italy, Japan, Canada, and the United Kingdom, where he continued to astonish crowds with his mentalism. Some of the most memorable international feats were in Italy, and I'll explain these a little bit further down the track, but Kreskin would have locals hide objects in the public square and using only the clues, like, and he had to find them using clues, like by the audience. In Japan, he didn't speak the language, but he was still able to read minds. In Canada, there was a major hockey game, naturally, and he was able to like predict that with like amazing accuracy. So I'll tell them in a little more in-depth a bit later on, but it's really inspiring.
It's super inspiring when a magician or any performer decides I'm international now and they hit the road and like, I'm going to go to Japan. No, I don't speak Japanese, but I'm good enough. We'll work this out.
Yeah. What I love about this is that his influence on pop culture, I really dig this bit as I was doing it, because as his fame grew, his influence on pop culture did as well. Now, he became so frequent on TV shows and movies that, and even in comics, his name became synonymous with mind reading to the point where people would say, "You're pulling a Kreskin."
Yeah, let me see if can I share screens. I was looking like we got a few titles on our website at Trick Supply. I don't have the ability to share right now because I'm technically.
Oh, maybe I can do that.
Oh, there we go. Like here's one. Look at this guy. This must have been released in the 70s. Look, he's wearing like a denim shirt with fat collars. Kreskin's Mind Power book. So I guess this would, 1977, second book that Kreskin wrote. And there's several titles in our inventory. I think someone recently found a stockpile of old Kreskin tomes that were released back in the day for the general public.
Yeah, I tried looking up his entire discography, and I did make mention of it a little later in the storyline, but I'll definitely make mention of those. And of course, if you guys want to scope it out,
you got some more. All right, I'll quit trying to pretend to be technically savvy here, and you can unleash. Just go back to talking, Nick.
Okay, so I want to talk about some of his notable predictions. So throughout his career, Kreskin became famous for his large-scale predictions. Some of the most notable ones are this. He predicted the outcome of political elections, including a famous instance where in the 1970s, he correctly forecasted an Italian election result before the votes were counted. He was making predictions about global events, sports outcomes, and even the trends in the entertainment industry. These bold statements kept audiences intrigued and ensured that he would remain a topic of conversation. There was also some unconventional challenges. One of Kreskin's trademarks was his willingness to take on these really gnarly challenges. So, for example, he often asked members of the audience to hide objects or write down secrets, which would later be uncovered with uncanny precision. This interactivity not only engaged audiences, but it also blurred the line between the performer and the participant, because there was this notion of how could he know that? Is he legit? But I guess he blurs that line beautifully by going, I'm highly educated in this realm, and I also practice it because I am magical. So Kreskin's career is filled with remarkable moments that left audiences stunned and cemented his reputation as one of the greatest mentalists of all time. Here are some of the most memorable performances that he did. So, of course, there was the paycheck challenge. One of Kreskin's, so what he would do is before the show, an audience member would hide the paycheck somewhere in the venue. The rule was simple. If Kreskin couldn't locate it at the end of the performance, he wouldn't get paid. It wasn't just a publicity stunt. It was literal high stakes, and it was just drama being added to every performance.
I'm thinking if I couldn't find it, suddenly my performance is longer.
Right. Well, Doug.
Day 3, Doug's on his hands and knees looking under the chair.
Hey, buddy, how you going finding that paycheck? You're like, oh, just got 4 more routines. We've been here for 3 weeks, Doug Kahn.
There's 6 devoted fans left in the theater.
Yay!
Oh my.
Okay, so he relied on subtle cues from the audience's body language and reactions to track down his hidden paycheck. Astonishingly, he almost always found it, whether it was tucked under a seat, taped to a ceiling, or sometimes hidden inside a piano. In one notable instance, Kreskin located his paycheck after it had been buried under a pile of books backstage. This challenge became a fan favorite. It was one of the most amazing elements of his show, and it highlighted his ability to engage in the audience in a completely unique way. I challenge anyone else to do that. No way.
Well, we got iFuji in the comments says the comment was, I failed to find the check 9 out of 6,000 times.
Oh my God.
I had a haunting experience in New Zealand where the paycheck was $50,000. Oh my.
Jesus.
Man,
wow.
That's a check that you want to find probably.
Yeah, you betcha.
Do you have any thoughts on his methods for doing this? Are we talking about any of how he might have accomplished that?
Man, you can take the easy route by going, he would just stooge it in some capacity, or
if I'm not mistaken, the guys was that he was using the spectator's body language to guide him. So he would hold a spectator, or they would hold a handkerchief or something like that, and he would supposedly use their influence to guide him. That sounds like poppycock, but maybe.
I'm half wondering if it's some sort of kinesiology based type thing with like a bit of muscle testing. You know that thing they do. You know,
yeah, but how reliable is that when you're looking under a stack of books, man? It's like, oh,
yeah, dude. Yeah,
I would have to have a stooge involved, like even if it's someone on my team who's watching them hide it, or
you know, sometimes you can pre-show things to a degree where you make it like I lean very heavily into this when I do any sort of routines of this nature, where I'll say the notion is this: be restrictive without seeming restricting. So it's the type of thing where I'll tell somebody, of all the colors of the rainbow, choose one. Now what that sounds like is name any color, but it's not.
They're not going to name fuchsia.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. There's like 8 colors in the rainbow. So, 7 technically, but they can really choose from. So you just sort of say like, you know, of all the colors of the rainbow, choose one. So you got a 1 in 8 chance of sort of getting things involved at that point. You know what I mean? So like whatever it is, whatever thoughts he had, it's obviously diabolical. But this town square search in Italy was an interesting one, actually.
So not in a theater, but outside in the public, huh?
Well, so he's taken the same principle but done it further. So here's what my research found. So during a performance in Italy, Kreskin was asked to locate a hidden object that had been concealed somewhere in a public square. The item was a small key, okay, and had been hidden by a local volunteer in an area surrounded by hundreds of onlookers. Using only mental cues, subtle body language from the crowd, Kreskin navigated to the square, located the key in a flower pot at the edge of the square. And the audience lost their minds. The performance became one of Kreskin's most celebrated international moments, demonstrating his abilities to transcend language and cultural barriers. That's gnarly. Like, there's a story of David Berglass doing the same thing, where I can't remember what the object was, but I'm pretty sure I read it in the Berglass Effect, where he was, it was an object that was hidden, and it was basically like on an island surrounded by water, like there, and he was like going around the city doing this type of thing, and then ended up going there, like, you know, and finding it. Like, it's so gnarly, but you gotta appreciate the gravity of this as well. You know, the showmanship alone, like the thought process involved, is pretty great. Like, when the stakes are high, the stakes are high.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what made Kreskin great, his showmanship, right? He was a very strong performer. So you could have this effect is killer, but if your showmanship sucks, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. But what I love is this next story, especially, which is him mind reading in Japan. So on a tour in Japan, Kreskin faced this really unique challenge, performing for an audience that largely spoke no English. Despite the language barrier, he successfully demonstrated his mind-reading abilities. Kreskin asked several volunteers to think of personal details, such as their favorite childhood memory or an object that they were imagining, and he was able to describe those thoughts with incredible accuracy. For one instance, he correctly identified a Japanese man's childhood pet as a white dog, which had never been mentioned aloud. The man was so astonished, he began like bowing repeatedly in disbelief. Just blown his mind. Like, that's crazy. So once again, it just solidified not only that his magic can transcend like languages, that as far as him being able to break these barriers of like the linguistic entities involved with being a mentalist, when language is so important, suggestion is so important, and the cultural differences, that's enormous.
Yeah, it's terrifying even as a magician, where we can rely on visible magic and stuff like that. But to think about taking my act to, say, Japan, where people don't speak English, is like unfathomable. For what I'm doing with just sleight of hand magic, doing mentalism,
I mean, how many times have you tried to do an effect where there is a level of suggestion or even a magic effect where they just need to follow very basic instructions and you ask them, do this or say this, and they still muff it up? Like, you know, like I can't say how many times I've said, like, choose a value between 1 and 13, you know, go like as in like ace through 10, jack, queen, or king, choose a value. And they go spade. And I go, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
What I said was choose a value, dickhead. You know? So, yeah, so there's that alone, like phenomenal. But there was also one where in Canada. So during a live performance in Canada, Kreskin made headlines by predicting the outcome of a major hockey game. The prediction was made in front of a live audience and written down on a sealed card, which was then stored in a locked box. After the game, the card was opened and it revealed not only the winning team, but also the exact final score. It was a feat that baffled everyone in attendance. The prediction created a media buzz and reinforced Kreskin's reputation as a master of foresight. And some skeptics attempted to explain that it was a coincidence or guesswork, but for those who saw it live, said it was nothing short of a miracle. Right.
I'm wondering what his influences were beyond Mandrake. I'm kind of rewinding a little bit because it had to be more than that. You know, it was who was going on
in the 1960s?
Dunninger. He was probably a guy.
There'd be some Dunninger ploy stuff there for sure. But, you know, also you sort of need to appreciate that he probably was heavily influenced by the academics.
Yeah, and he just kind of wrote his own story, I guess, and because he was a fourth figure for Mentalism as public performance art. You know, there was guys doing it. You know, Alexander, the man who knows, right? We could go back to that. I had the pleasure of seeing his turban in the Copperfield Museum. This guy used radio technology before it was popular. He built it into the turban. He had the guy off stage telling him the information. Yeah, any technology is like magic before we know it's technology, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, Blackstone, actually, Scotty just mentioned that. Blackstone was also kind of amazing in that realm as well, where he was doing those sliding light bulbs. And I guess at that time in life, like, it's pretty rare.
Yeah, but that's magic, though. You know, I'm thinking, like, how can you say, I'm going to perform Mentalism as a performance art and get $50,000 checks that I may or may not find, you know? So.
I got luggage tags, for example, that are like about as thick as maybe a credit card, 4 or 5 playing cards.
Right.
And you just put it, like, you can put it in your wallet, and that would be like your air tag for where your wallet is and so forth. But man, like, we're talking about a paycheck in an envelope. It's probably a ton of transparency in it as well. Like, it's, you know?
Yeah, and no technology in the 70s could have, you know, supplied what he needed for that effect. Yeah,
no chance. No chance. Like, it'd have to be a pretty big operation, maybe with a ton of Confederates, even if it was like done legitimately, but everyone was kind of watching it happen and then somehow like speak-easing it to him in some
what if he really had mind powers, and then sometimes he would just do magic tricks on the side to make the smarties not know he really had the goods. He's like, let me throw a nail bend in here so no one knows I'm really predicting the future.
Have you ever been criticized of that, where someone's like, you're really magic and you're cosplaying as a human?
You know, I've had a couple people not happy to be around me because what I was doing. And I was thinking, wow, you're stupid. Magic trick. I'm not Mr. Mystery guy when I'm performing. It's not, I don't even pretend it's real for a minute. So I don't know how someone's like, Mr. Khan.
It's one of those things where, like, if you were truly magic and magic cost some of your essence to do what you had to do, like genuinely, like it cost some of your essence, would you use a cutting rope?
No. Would I have a sponge bunny? Probably not.
Yeah. You know? So I call myself a magician, but I've just professed to be somebody with a high set of skills.
Yeah, I don't even say that anymore. You know, I guess I say it in a generality, but you know, when I'm telling people what I do, I'm a sleight of hand artist, is, you know, what I like to think of myself.
Yeah.
And it's not magic. It's you know, It's entertaining, skill based, amazing effects.
Yeah. So, it's funny, things of this nature I haven't really seen done before. The last time I can remember someone doing a prediction of this caliber, as far as the outcome of a game, Rich Ferguson did one on YouTube where he predicted the Super Bowl, I think. And it really launched him into the sphere after that. That's the only thing I could think of as far as anyone else doing that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any prominent predictions of recent note. If there was any, they weren't prominent enough for me.
Yeah. Maybe it's good that they're forgettable, so they're repeatable, perhaps.
Maybe the performers just aren't good at promotion. That's probably more likely.
Yeah.
There's some great methods for doing predictions these days.
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? A hockey game, for example, would typically be single digits as far as a like a score would be. It might be 6-0 or 6-5 or even 3-0. We're talking 3-minute periods, not 3 minutes, 3 periods in a hockey game, and away you go. When he predicted the political election, so in the 1970s, he accurately predicted the results of this national election. So before the votes were counted, Kreskin revealed his prediction to a room of journalists. When the officials' results were announced, the prediction was spot on. Like, spot on. So we're talking a population now. Big numbers. It's like, what I'm saying is that if I had a thumb writer, I could do something of that nature at a single digit. But if I had to write, and in population where there's like 1 million people here in Melbourne alone, and I'd have to write that 648,944, like, come on, man, I can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
he must have some cool methods.
Yeah. This wasn't the only time that he actually did that. He also correctly forecasted several U.S. president elections as well during his career.
I bet before he did it, he had a room full of journalists.
Yeah.
Just like you said in the first story,
Right? Yeah. And again, the predictions just kept adding to his mystique, and kept the audiences wondering about, like, what is it? Was it rooted is it intuition? Is it psychology? Is it something supernatural? What is it? But this story that I found, and I just kept finding more and more and more, but there's a couple of more. This one blew my mind. During a live performance in New York, Kreskin was approached by a volunteer who claimed to have lost a family heirloom. It was a gold watch, and they lost it weeks prior. The man asked Kreskin, "Could you help me locate it?" Now, accepting the challenge, Kreskin asked the man to close his eyes and focus on the last time he remembered seeing the watch. And after a few moments of silence, Kreskin directed the man. He said, check the pocket of an old winter coat stored in the attic. The man later confirmed that the watch was exactly where Kreskin had described it. Come on, man.
That's like some Uri Geller stuff there.
Come on, man. I mean, Uri Geller, do you remember when, you probably don't remember this, but I'm pretty sure, I think it might have been an Australian company. They paid him a ridiculous amount of money to fly around a helicopter to predict where there's oil to be dug.
Good gig.
Uri Geller, come on, man. Like, this is why I love the Institute of Magic in Australia. So the Australian Institute of Magic, like, one of the things we have is that, like, we don't believe what we're doing is real. We do it for entertainment purposes. Uri Geller doing stuff like that was kind of like, bro, like, that's charlatan. I don't know.
It was totally taboo. Like, yeah. Now he's all buddy with the magic world, but back in the day, it was like not that way at all. I think Johnny Carson busted him on the Tonight Show. Was Kreskin involved with that? There was some magician.
Oh,
they had Geller on and had him ready to do a stunt, and then they tricked him to where he couldn't pull it off.
Yeah, I thought it was actually with James Randi,
where Randy.
They swapped these spoons, if memory serves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like trying to do a spoon bend, Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
Crook.
But what I love about this is the more I studied him, the more I started seeing these parodies between him and the amazing nature of which Darren Brown performs. So, for example, on the Mike Douglas show, Kreskin performed a mass hypnosis act that became one of his most talked about television appearances. He hypnotized a group of audience members simultaneously, instructing them to act as though they were driving race cars in a race.
All right.
What followed was a hilarious yet very impressive display as the volunteers mimicked steering wheels and made car noises and were completely unaware of their surroundings, right? So Kreskin's ability to influence a group of people, right, in that dramatic way showcased his mastery of suggestion and psychological influences. Like it's a testament to, again, like almost reinventing magic in a sense, the same way that Darren Brown did. So when you see the scale this guy works on, that to me just blows my mind.
And also he's working like out of his pockets for the most part. That's a huge win. He's just like, what are his props? It's not like he has to wheel around the death saw like David Copperfield or 12 cast members and yada yada.
Yeah, like 18-wheeler trucks, rocking up and doing whatever they got to do.
Yeah.
Like
you bring your thumb writer and your book for the book test and take about 20 minutes to find that check. And then show's over.
Now, again, there's probably countless stories, but there's just one more I want to make mention before we move on to his later life and his legacy, and it's this. Kreskin often used his stills for more personal challenges. In one story, a couple approached him during a performance, asking him for help with their troubled relationship. Kreskin invited them on stage and asked them to write down their biggest concerns on these separate cards, which were then sealed in envelopes. After a few moments of thought, Kreskin revealed what each had written and encouraged them to communicate openly about these issues. The couple later credited Kreskin with helping them understand each other better and saving their marriage. A unique and heartwarming example of the ability to connect with people on a personal level. Come on.
That's
Talk about
cool.
framing. That's so clever and cute. I mean, I thought I'd do it in a cute way in my roving sets where, it's like I get a guy to say stop and I go, you count that amount of cards. And I say to the lady, I go, choose a number 1, 2, 3, or 4. And she says 4. And I throw 4 cards down and I go, how many cards do you have? He goes, I have 10. I go, this many? And I turn over one of the cards and it's 10. And I turn over all 4 cards and it's the 4 10s. And I'm like, wow, you two are so in sync. That's amazing. I thought that was cool.
That is
saving
cool.
marriages.
No, but that's still cool for a card trick.
Oh, thanks, man.
No, it is cool.
It's Hobson, sir. So, yeah.
It's a Hobson's plot?
Yeah. It's great. Yeah, I'll talk you through it later. So these stories exemplify Kreskin's extraordinary talents and his ability to leave a lasting impression on audiences worldwide. Each performance was a blend of psychology, intuition, and showmanship, creating moments of awe and wonder that remain unforgettable to those who witness them. Amen. So as Kreskin aged, his passion for mentalism and the art of performance never waned. Into his later years, he remained an active and highly respected figure in the entertainment world. His career spanned more than 7 decades, a testament to his dedication, adaptability, which I can't even speak. That's how good he was. Adaptability. That's better. Adaptability and timeless appeal. Well into his 70s and 80s, Kreskin continued to perform live shows, proving that his talents were as sharp as ever. His performance remained interactive and dynamic, and the audiences of all ages were captivated by his ability to read minds, predict outcomes, and uncover hidden objects. Kreskin often quipped that mentalism kept him sharp, and it was clear that his love for the craft was as strong as when he first started. His live shows became more intimate over time, often taking place in smaller venues where he could engage directly with his audiences. These performances offered fans a unique, up-close experience of his abilities, showcasing the personal and charismatic side of Kreskin that endeared him to so many. In his later years, Kreskin authored several books, sharing the insights and techniques of the the philosophy behind his work. The books include The Amazing World of Kreskin, Kreskin Confidential, and The Secrets of the Amazing Kreskin. There is more, but these are the most, like, the ones you can actually get. And of course, we can get them from...
Well, tricksupply.com has them for sure. Yeah, visit us. Type in Kreskin in the search bar. You'll find 4 or 5 items that come up. And look, if you're a video learner, in the 5 minutes I had pre-show, I grabbed this off our DVD shelf. You can be amazing just like Kreskin. And I'm going to take this home, and I don't have my DVD player yet. It'll be here tomorrow. My furniture's still en route. I don't, the cats have a couch, not me.
Absolutely, yeah. And they'll probably be mad if you try to share it with them. So, they get territorial. But these teachings explore topics such as the power of suggestion, the psychology of human behavior, and how people can improve their focus and intuition in everyday life. His books were not only instructional, but inspirational, offering readers tools to better understand themselves and others.
You know what he also had? He had a board game, Kreskin's board game.
Did he really?
Psychic things. I saw it in the window of a vintage shop in New Orleans one day. I'm walking by. I'm like, the Kreskin board game. Like,
I wonder who licensed that.
Right? It looked like, something from Mattel, like the Ouija board people kind of thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I bet that's a nice collectible. You get a Kreskin board game.
That would be cool. Yeah. So, so through his writing, Kreskin extended his legacy to aspiring magicians, mentalists, and anyone curious about the mysteries of the mind. Even as he stepped back from the spotlight in his later years, Kreskin influence remained deeply embedded in pop culture. His name became synonymous with mind reading and intuition. Often references in movies and TV shows, again, saying that he was pulling a Kreskin. I guess it's probably an older saying, but I think,
Speaking of movies, is the great Buck Howard on your in your story here? The great Buck Howard.
No.
Let me see if I can share screen again here. This is a gem of a film, and it features John Malkovich, Colin Hanks, and even Tom Hanks is in this movie. And this is essentially a reflection of Kreskin later in life. So, boy, John Malkovich and Colin Hanks. Ricky Jay is in this movie.
Wow.
Are you kidding me? So this is everyone's recommendation to watch later. It is a good film, and it's not like the most glamorous look at Kreskin as it is looking at him later in life, and how someone that's declining in their later years might be struggling. But yeah, the great Buck Howard. Put that on your list if it's not already.
Yeah,
movie recommendations. There we go.
That's a fun time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I was trying to see if there was any sort of mentorships and so forth. Although he didn't formally train students or establish a mentorship program, many mentalists credit him as a massive inspiration for their craft. His innovation of psychology and suggestion pushed the boundaries of what mentalism could achieve, encouraging others to experiment and innovate within that art form. Kreskin was also known for his generosity in sharing his knowledge. He frequently attended magic conventions where he would interact with younger performers, offering advice and encouragement. His willingness to connect with aspiring magicians and mentalists ensured his impact would continue to be felt for generations. Kreskin's final performances were celebrated as a milestone of his incredible career. While details of his very last performance remain elusive, it's widely recognized that he continued to perform well into his late 80s.
Love it.
Unreal. Leaving audiences in awe to the very, very end. His shows were a testament to his enduring skill and the joy he found in creating connections with people in his craft. He stopped performing after being injured in a fall in early 2024. He had a period of poor health in the weeks leading up into his death. Kreskin died from complications of dementia at an assisted living facility in Wayne, New Jersey on December 10, 2024, at the age of 89.
Yeah, just a few months ago.
Yep. Yep. Kreskin's life was a celebration of curiosity, creativity, and the human mind's potential. He transformed mentalism into a niche art from a niche art. Let me say that again because he deserves this. He transformed mentalism from a niche art form into a global phenomenon, inspiring countless performers and leaving audiences with memories of the impossible. His ability to connect with people, entertain with a sense of humor, and make them question what they thought they knew about the world was just thrown out the window, honestly. For Kreskin, the real magic wasn't in the tricks of the illusion. It was about the connection he shared with the audience and the joy of creating these moments of true wonder. Kreskin will be missed, and I'm really thankful we have an opportunity to remember him today. It's so cool.
Agree completely. And dude, thank you so much for putting together that wonderful presentation. Man, I learned a lot today about Kreskin.
Yeah, man. It's staggering. It's staggering how influential,
I guess because he was really on the rise during the rise of media, and he knew how to make that work for him, with all the television shows. And, I would say that has a lot to do with his popularity. That plus he's an original. And, people ask me a lot. I hear it from the kids, and people want to know, how do you become good? The way you become good is you do something unique, that no one else is doing. And he very much did that. He found his own style and was able to deliver something people haven't seen before, or if they had seen it, not that way.
I guess you see it nowadays, I guess he was coming up through the 50s where, color television and so forth were becoming a thing, and talk shows and whatever else, where, people would, effectively be part of the audience in their lounge rooms. I don't think people nowadays are going to experience that. Like, we used to have a show. It was an awful show. It was called Hey, Hey, It's Saturday. That was our Johnny Carson, right? And we were able to sit there in our lounge rooms as kids with the family, watch it on a Saturday night and have a giggle. You know what I mean? And we would have, there's a hilarious, if you watched it, you'll laugh your ass off. We had like an ostrich puppet on the show. There was this thing called Dickie Knee. And I remember it scared the crap out of Sylvester Stallone in one of the interviews. I remember as a kid growing up, those days are gone now. Now it's like they're using different mediums, obviously, and they're using social media. But what I really dislike is that a lot of people ask me how to do well in magic, and seldom is the advice ever, be good, be really good, be so good, be world-class good. It's always get your promo right, look good, get your and then what happens? We hire you and you suck. I know one guy who is all about aesthetics. And I guess this is a semi-gig story because I was performing, and I got to share this story real quick because it's just like when you hear someone performing of this caliber versus somebody else who's all about the aesthetic. I was performing and I approach this group and I say, hello, welcome. I'm Nicholas. It's now a good time for magic. And she goes, do we have to do magic? So of course not. What do you want to do? She goes, well, can we just have a chat? I go, sure. What do you want to know? She's like, why do you do magic? And I go, because it makes people happy. And she goes, well, what makes you happy? And I said, making people happy. She goes, cool. What was your favorite band in the 90s? I go, this. And then she just asked me a myriad of questions. And I answered every one of them politely. And the guy, and I wasn't like in her face. I was in between these two dudes. She was like on the edge of the table on the far side. And I just sat with the guys and we just had a chat. And I pulled us together and just to make her feel comfortable. For whatever reason, she was uncomfortable. I read the room and we had a chat about it.
Sometimes that's your job when you're the magician.
Here's where it got great. She then she then says, okay, I'm ready to see magic now. And I perform. And actually, before I do that, the guys go, she needed to establish trust before we do this. And I said, I understand that.
Yeah.
Not a problem. I start performing my piece and it's blowing her mind. And she's loving it. She was like, this is unbelievable. And she stopped me halfway through my set to tell me this. Like I wasn't done with my routine yet, but she stopped me and she said, 5 years ago, there was this magician who was so bad that I hate magic. And I went, where was it? And she told me where it was. And I went, I know exactly who this magician is.
It was Josh Norbito's house, huh?
And I'm going to keep all the details out, but I'll fill you in off the air. And I'll show you a photograph because she goes, I hated it so much.
No,
took a photograph of it.
It's pretty bad, man.
Yeah.
You couldn't let it go. You had to burn it into the memory.
Yeah. She was like, he was so bad. I took a photograph of him because this guy was not very professional and probably not even sober for this. But it's just one of those things where aesthetically they're so great and they look so good. But when they actually do the work, they're not. And
they forgot to care about the people.
They forgot to care about the people. Now, you look at Kreskin. Would you say that he is Channing Pollock movie star gorgeous and was fighting girls off with a stick?
Or maybe the exact opposite.
Well, maybe not. I'm sure he was classically handsome for sure. But the work speaks for itself. The work. Do the work, man. Do the good magic thing.
Yeah. Care about your audience. Give them a reason to care about your magic. And put on deodorant.
Yeah.
In Nick's case, roll it all over your body.
Do I smell that bad?
No, I just know you're a deodorant fan. You put on that no sweat stuff.
The no sweat stuff is important, man.
Yeah,
and doing shows in Brisbane where it's going to be considerably hotter, I will be running a bathtub of it for sure in my accommodation. So yeah, but man, like I admittedly, I'm so impressed by these stories. I really am. Like it's so inspiring. Yeah, like it's just staggering, you know.
So look, we're wrapping up soon. We got a few minutes left. I want to mention you're going to a convention next week. I'm going to a convention next week. I'm going to work my first dealer's booth with Trick Supply in St. Louis, Missouri.
Awesome.
Gateway Close-Up Convention. So if there's any kindred spirits listening, if you're going to be in St. Louis, you got about 20 hours. If you have a special request, I'll bring you maybe you want the new Juan Tamarí book. Let's go. Flamenco in the house. I got to do a little product promotion from Trick Supply, you know. This is Juan's newest, really it's a trick book, which is kind of rare for him, you know. Sometimes his books lately are all theory. But you can't have this one because it's mine now.
It's just remarkable. Because if I were in your position, I would be I'd be paying to work there because I would just be hemorrhaging all my wages on like taking.
Don't tell my boss that because I would. But so far, this is working out. No, truth be told, turns out having Doug Kahn in a magic shop's all right for the magic shop. You know, I think it's a good give and take. But yeah, I am literally living the dream. I mean, I was like, what are we going to talk? These are just the things that came across my desk today. Like, here's a couple of things. I grabbed the Kreskin.
Yeah,
we got the big headline from David Kaplan.
This is great. He's actually going to be in town. He's going to be visiting us for the Magic Festival, I believe. So,
yes, indeed. So I was happy to see that. We got this is Ariola. I can't pronounce the first name. Paviato, which I recall reading his work in some early books from John Mendoza. He's a FISM award-winning artist. I think he did a duo act with Tamarí back in the day.
What was his name?
Ariello Paviato. Let me put that right in the front there.
Huh.
And I know he's got some wonderful card and coin handlings. I recall studying them, but I haven't seen a volume dedicated to his work.
Nice book.
We all know who Roberto Giobbi is, and I guess this is maybe a Penguin release. So Unexpected Agenda from Roberto. This is more of a theory book.
You know, that's interesting. Like, it's so considering that his books, Card College, are like very much the concrete of card magic to some degree. You know what I mean? Like, they're very good foundation.
Well, that's what I tell people to buy. How do I learn card magic? Get Card College. It's all
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable because I've sat up as a guys who have just been like, everything you do fools me, and they just go, it's all Card College, man. And I'm like,
all the great stuff is in there.
Yeah. It's hard to believe, like, what else could be in that book? Like what is it called? A Hidden Agenda?
This is the Unexpected Agenda, and it's a follow-up to a volume that he released, I think, which was called Hidden Agenda. And it's a book, I think, mainly of magic theory, tips, advice, just on how to be a better magician. Maybe not the ambitious card routine route, but how to make someone care about the ambitious card routine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get to live the dream. Getting that's the day. Yesterday it was Tora magic, and the day before I'm curating the brasswares in the cabinet, and day before that I'm learning some new packet tricks.
Yeah,
I think a good one that I'm really enthusiastic about, this thing, David Haydan's Babel book test. And this is one volume of many that he's published. It incorporates the mother of all book tests, the flashback book test, and a couple of unique things that he's integrated into this. And it's been a while since I've had a book test, but this one is going to go home with me, and looking forward to, if nothing else, performing it at my house, having the book around, and it's a very organic piece. So yeah, we actually have these on sale for like $40 right now. It's ridiculously cheap as far as high-end book tests go.
For a book test, that's crazy.
Especially for something that's related to the mother of all book tests, which is normally hundreds of dollars to get something with that publication.
Yeah. Like normally you're looking, you got to sort of have $300 in your pocket.
Yeah.
If you even enter the word mother of all book tests into your head.
So what Haydan did with these books is he published several of them in different sizes. So you can use the same techniques for books that appear to be different, right? So it's the same methodology. So you could have 8 books on the shelf. You say, go grab one of those, and they all work the same way, but they all look different. So pretty cool. Look, I'm done plugging products. I actually have a customer in my store now. So it's time to wrap up our podcast so I can actually make some money today.
Well, guys, thank you for listening to our podcast, and thank you for helping us pay respects to the amazing Kreskin. Like, I wish I knew more about him earlier. It just goes to show you don't know what you got till it's gone. But of course, you got to know where you came from to know where you're going. History is important. If there's anyone else you would like me to sort of scope out, let me know. I've written 3 or 4 in advance. So as far as history lessons go, if you enjoy them, do let us know. Thanks so much for listening.
I'm letting you know I enjoyed them, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. You can scope out my links below, or scope out my Instagram at Nick K Magic. You can see Doug at Conman.
Go to DougCon.com. That's a good spot.
DougCon.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week. Lots of love.
Au revoir.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of The Magic Guys.